Hello there and welcome back. My name is Elena.
And I'm Fotios, and this is the Game Code.
Today we're going to try something different. We're going to do a little mini-series of all-time top 10 board games that might or might not include us by the end.
And today in particular we have our friend Rhys presenting his own top 10 board games of all time.
Hi guys, I'm Rhys Williams. I'm here today to do my top 10 board games. Number 10, I've got Dominant Species Marine by Chad Jensen. This game is about many different species in the marine life competing for dominance, as the title suggests. It's a very brutal game because obviously, as players, you take on the species attacking other species to try and take dominance of different parts of the world. The key mechanics of Dominant Species Marine, worker placement, and it's a very clever worker placement system. You have these pawns that you place to do the actions, but the actions you can only do, first one goes anywhere you want, but from there, from the right or below where you've placed all the other pawns. Really, really clever, makes the timing of actions really vital, and of course, with worker placement, people can take your actions as well, so there is that. Another aspect of the clever worker placement is that the pawns themselves are limited, but you can perform a dominance. Now, when you perform a dominance, you can get new pawns. There are 6 different food sources that you can try and dominate, and if you dominate those areas, you take another pawn to play another action. But you can take those pawns from other people because you can prove dominance again over someone else. Very, very clever. The reason I love this game, it's those interactions between the people. The fact that you know that it's going to be head-to-head, face-to-face brutality. It really does manage to simulate species going for each other. One thing I shouldn't forget about actually, the event cards. Now, the event cards, they range from giving you a couple of points, helping you to spread out a bit more, to absolutely dominating and destroying areas, which, let's be honest, brings a bit of fun, distraction to the game. My number 9 is Marvel Champions by Mike Boggs, Nate French, and Caleb Grace. Now, this is, as you can tell, a Marvel game. The IP is there. You have the heroes going against the big bad, and that is pretty much it. What I really love about it is the deck building aspect. So each hero comes with their set 15 cards that they are specific to them, and they'll come with, I don't know, adamantium claws, if you're Wolverine example, or allies that are actually associated to them. But there are 4 different aspects, 5 if you now count the new pool, but 4 main aspects for the game that you can mix in and create a deck that really brings out the strengths of those characters. I love it. I love it. When a new hero comes out, I like to try different aspects with it against the different bad guys. I love it when new campaign boxes come out because it gives you that time to really allow the aspects to shine and for you to use those aspects in different ways. And I really love it solo, which I'm not a solo player, but I can actually sit down and play this solo. My preferred method is the 2-player because I still like interaction, social interaction. That's why I play board games, to be fair. But the fact that I can sit down and play this solo and really enjoy it, that's why it's my number 9. My number 8 is Trickerion Legends of Illusion by Richard Amann and Victor Peter. The game is a steampunk setting for magicians to show off their tricks and illusions. The key mechanics in this game, worker placement, where each worker has a different strength and therefore they can do more items in those different areas on the board. So if you go to the store with your magician, he might have more kick, more power, and might be able to buy more. Whereas if you send your lowly apprentice, not so much sway, so you're not going to get so much. So obviously with worker placement, you are competing for those locations. But what is really vital about this game is the tricks. When preparing a show, you are competing with your fellow magicians to put on the best tricks of that show. You're also trying to compete with them to when you perform. When performing, certain days are more lucrative than others. Obviously, the audience doesn't really want to go out on a Thursday to watch. They want to go on a Sunday where it's quieter and they've got a bit more time. So you get a little bit more score in there. So you're competing with the magicians to actually perform on specific days, as well as what tricks you perform as well. The tricks and the performers themselves, the magicians, they all add an extra variability, as they all have very different asymmetrical abilities and give off extra perks, which, if you play with the Dalgard Academy like I do, the expansion also adds that when you add it for classrooms or to practice lessons where you can attain those things constantly. It's fun. It's just fun. Really, really fun. And the theme shines through. The art, the production by Mindclash, brilliant, excellent, fantastic. My number 7 is Brass Lancashire by Martin Wallace. In this game, you are business moguls. You're trying to create an empire or network of different businesses. You could be coal, iron, or ports, and you gain points by actually completing these industries and sending goods off beyond Lancashire itself. The key mechanics, actions based on cards. So each location on the board has a card that is linked to it and has an industry as well. Sometimes you play these cards one by one, so you have to obviously make sure that when you play these cards you're doing it in the right fashion, in the right way, and you're not going to be wasting a card that you will want to use later on. Really, really clever system in that regard. The difficulty is the fact that everyone is obviously competing for those industries and in those areas. For example, Manchester has 4 different spots and is connected to a lot more locations, and that is the key location usually for points. So if you're all competing for that area, guess what? One of you ain't getting in, 2 of you ain't getting in, maybe only one of you, full stop, will ever get in there. Why I love the game? I love the interaction of it. As I just stated, when you're vying for one location like Manchester and someone just pips you, brilliant. When you are trying to create a network, you can use other people's networks. There is some kind of semi-cooperative nature of the networks, but let's not beat around the bush. You're not helping each other. You are trying to get those businesses in as soon as possible in locations, but you will manipulate other people's industries. I also like the many routes that you can go down gaining points and revenue. You could completely ignore one industry, for example, and you could fully develop another industry which no one else has touched, and therefore you are only getting the points in that regard. My number 6 is Prêt-à-Porter by Ignacy Trzewiczek and Piotr Havacek. So, have you ever wanted to be like Vivienne Westwood or Coco Chanel and become a fashion designer? That's what this game is about. You are creating garments to show off on the catwalk. The game is an economy game. You're trying to create garments and sell them for as much as you can on the shows, but you're also trying to gain fame from those shows. The game utilizes a worker placement mechanism where you have 3 specific workers that you can send out to do the different actions. In those actions, you can get new buildings, new specialized workers, or even establish contracts. Once you've got the garments that you want and everyone has taken their actions, there could be a show on the horizon. During a show, you give up a collection, and in that collection you are looking at certain categories like quality or just your PR. Each category is scored individually and you gain fame from that, which later on becomes points. The more you give off in the show, the better. Why I love the game is because of the unique theme, for sure. It's something that's not done. But I also love that tightness of your money, trying to gain points, fame, and trying to gain money to create a new collection for the next show. It's tight, and I love that. The indirect actions as you try and compete for different categories in the show where you're trying to steal quality from underneath other people. It's brutal, just like fashion, right? My number 5 is Ark Nova by Matthias Wig. Ark Nova is all about building a zoo and participating in conservation projects. The game is played in numerous rounds as you race to try and build the best enclosures in your zoos and to compete for each other for conservation projects. You take actions based on cards that are laying in front of you in specific rows from 1 to 5. Wherever the card is, that is the strength of the action. So when you play an action, you put it back to the very beginning. If If you play a 5, it becomes a 1 later on. So playing those actions in the specific way, in specific order, will give you the proper strength that you're going to need. As you start building out your zoo, you gain points via pleasure or via conservation. Now these are two tracks that meet each other, and once they've met, that signals the end of the game. Everyone else gets one more turn to boost either their conservation or their pleasure, and the person who overlaps the most wins the game. It's a bit of a race in this regard. The theme, as you can imagine, with animals is just so satisfying. Even if you don't win the game, you're just like, I really want to get this animal in my zoo. I just wish there was bats. Come on, expansion. Pulling off those satisfying interactions as well by playing an action at a specific time to then trigger another one the next turn is just so satisfying when that happens. My number 4 is Age of Steam by John Borer and Martin Wallace, depending on who you talk to. In this game, you are railroad pioneers creating tracks and delivering your goods, and you're competing with your rival moguls as you take goods from one place that they were going to take them and deliver them before them. What I really love about the game is the auctions for the actions at the beginning of the game. So there are several different actions for every map, and let's talk about the maps. They can be very, very varied and very different rules-wise as well. But when you go for the auction at the very beginning of the game, you are auctioning for a specific action that you can do for that turn. So you're already spending your money before you even lay the track, which is just cutthroat sometimes. Once you've won the auction and you've got your action that you want, it's time to lay some of those rails. Now, when you lay the rail, it can be anywhere on the map to begin with, and you can compete with other individuals. You cannot go into their rail, but you can start to go towards their rail and maybe disrupt them a little bit. And it's that kind of disruption that I really love about this game. You can really, really block individuals. You can get them to bankruptcy if you keep on taking their goods from under their nose. That's the brutality of this game. I also love, as I alluded to earlier on, the fact that there are so many different maps and different ways to spice up the game and how it plays. And the designers for these new maps, they just find new ways to put new rules in there. Really, really great game. My number 3 is Voidfall by Nigel Buckle and David Turksey. Now, this is a very new addition to the list because the game hasn't been out very long. But I don't think it should surprise people that this is going to be in the top 10 for a lot of people, to be honest with you, because this game is so, so fun. Basically, the game is a Euro 4X in space. Already ticking a few boxes for me there, and maybe a contradiction there. Euro 4X, that doesn't make much sense. More of a thematic kind of thing of 4X, but the theme is there. It's driven by the fact that you are one of the many different houses, and that the Voidfall that inhabit this galaxy now and that have taken over are your version of barbarians from Civilization, if you will. You can go and you can conquer them and you can take them out, but they pose as a threat to each of the houses. It's really, really clever action selection with cards that everyone kind of has. You might have one that is a slightly different based on your house, but everyone kind of has the basic cards and you can choose which ones you take. The very fact that the different events gives you different number of cards that you can play each turn means that you will have to change up your strategy even if you went the same house on another map. And again, another map. The variability of this, fantastic. There's a whole codex full of maps and scenarios based on player count that you can go through. I've already discussed the fact that you can actually take out some of the Voidborn, but you can actually take out some of the players as well. And this is all done by deterministic combat, another very unique aspect of the game, which means that you know if you're going to win that battle before you go in there. It means you can prepare yourself. Brilliant. The reason I gush over this game and the fact that it's reached to top 3 already is the openness, the sheer fact that you can try and do whatever you wish. The races suggest maybe a path that you should go down, but you could completely ignore that and do whatever you want. And I love a bit of openness in all games that I play. I've already discussed the variability, the houses and their politics tracks, and the fact that each game has a different technology tree that you can build as well. It just brings a new lease of life every time you play, even if you play with a new house. The variability is fantastic, as I've alluded to. Whether you've been a house before or not, the very fact that the nature of the technology tree which is different based on which houses have come out, which fallen houses have come out, just allows to that variability again. Love it. My number 2 is Sid Meier's Civilization the Board Game. This is the 2010 edition by Kevin Wilson. Now, this is a game where, as is alluded to, you play a civilization and you're bringing them from birth to maybe destruction, depends on what the other races do, the other civilizations, sorry. There are 4 ways to win this game. You can win economically by gaining enough gold and money to show that you are the economic class. You could dominate by taking out someone's capital, or you could become a spacefaring individual by going up the tech tree and winning via technology. There is also the cultural route where you can just pump in culture left, right and centre through opera houses, music, theatre, etc., whatever you want within your own civilization. Why I love this game? I've always loved Sid Meier's Civilization on PC. And I love the fact that you can build up a race from very little humble beginnings onwards. And what I really love about the video game is the fact that you can choose how and what you want to build. And that's exactly what Kevin Wilson has done in this game. He's given you the option to choose how you want to build your civilization and how you want to win. It's perfectly implemented. I also love the fact that once you finish the game, it feels like you've gone through the motions of that civilization. There's often stories to tell. Whether it's the Spanish that just seem to come out of nowhere all the time to attack you, or if you've gone the Americans and you've just turtled up for some particular reason. There's always some kind of story every time I play a game, and it's something that we can reminisce on. And my number 1 is Feudum by Mark Swanson. This game is a medieval economic game. Sounds a bit odd, right? Well, basically you've been shunned and you've been exiled into the world and you've gone to foreign lands to kind of make a name for yourself. While you're here in these new lands, you can build new guilds and try and become the leader, which is actually the perfect working economy of the game. Each guild rolls into each other, and this is one of the very reasons I love this game. Everyone can take ownership of a guild, and they need to push the goods from that guild on to another guild. And it's this working economy that I absolutely adore. Your reliance on other people to do the things that you really need to be done, it's really stressful and really painful. So sometimes you might want to knock them off their pedestal and become the guild leader yourself, so you can actually just take that action. For goodness sakes, do that please, or I'll go in there and do it for you. The game is played several rounds or eras, and how you play is based on simultaneous action of cards. Every card has several different actions that you can take, and you choose a set number of them before the round begins. So once you've kind of programmed those actions, you cannot change them, but you can change the order in which you play them. So if someone plays a card just before you that actually kind of puts you out of place of where you actually wanted to play an action, you can actually react and you can be flexible in that regard. What I love about this game is the fact that every time I play, I see someone pull a new lever and change up a strategy in the game. The very nature and the very openness of how you want to make points and how the economy actually gets running, that brings a variability and a new kind of sense of story to the game every time you play. And I don't see anyone play the game the same way twice. They may manipulate something they previously manipulated, but that might not be the sole strategy they take. They will actually look at utilizing other things that other people have done. And I often find myself going, oh, that was pretty good that he did last game. I'm going to try a bit of that this turn and see how that works. And sometimes it doesn't work just as well as it did for them. But sometimes it does, and then you can combine that with something that you know that you can do and pull that off for hopefully the biggest points. Well, that's been my top 10 board games, and if you haven't played any of these games, I suggest you go out, grab it, and play it with someone you love.